Namaskar. Today is May 12th, 2026. Each year on March 14 begins my 100 days journey in returning to the essence of yoga, in celebration of International Day of Yoga on June 21st. This year, I chose to revisit Maharishi Patanjali's Yoga Sūtra and share my daily practices inspired by it. Welcome to day 60 of Satvik Yogi Path. Satvik Yogi Path, it is not a performance or a ritual or by aesthetics. It is simply by awareness. Satvik Yogi Path is simple, and it's a very simple global way of living with clarity. And today we have already reached 60th day of the 100 days journey. Welcome once again. Today, the Yoga Sutra that we are going to discuss and practice is ninth Yoga Sutra from chapter 2 of Sadhana Pad. Yesterday on day 59, we explored the fourth kleśa, mind's affliction, dveṣa. Dveṣa, the aversion. The aversion that is rooted in the memory of pain. Today, Maharishi Patanjali defines the fifth and the final kleśa in Yoga Sutra 2.9. Swar Savahi Vidushopi Tatha Rudho Abhiniveśa. Let's recite the sutra once again. Swar Savahi Vidushopi Tatha Rudho Abhiniveśa. Abhiniveśa is the deep, instinctive fear of loss. Fear of loss, even in the wise. Abhiniveśa, today it is the fifth and the final kleśa that we are exploring. And this Abhiniveśa, the deep instinctive fear of loss, it's the most universal of all kleśa. The kleśas that we have studied so far, avidya, which is the root of the root causes of sufferings. Asmita, which is ego identity. Rag, the third kleśa, attachment. And dveṣa, aversion. And today it's abhiniveśa, fear of loss. Abhiniveśa is the instinctive fear of loss. It's the clinging to life, the fear of change, the fear of unknown. Maharishi Patanjali says this fear exists even in the wise because it is not intellectual, it is instinctive. So let us break down the sutra word by word. So let us once again recite the sutra, Sutra 2.9. Swar Savahi Vidushopi. So Swar Savahi Vidushopi Tatha Rudho Abhiniveśa. Swar Savahi, flowing by its own force, which is instinctive. Vidushaha api. So it's made of two words, vidushopi. Vidusha, which means, and api together, which means even in the wise. Tatha rudoha, rudoha, which is deeply rooted. And Abhinivesh is the fear of loss, clinging to life. So Abhinivesh is the instinctive fear of loss, deeply rooted, even in the wise. So Abhinivesh is not a psychological fear. It is not a trauma response. It is not a personal flaw. It is the instinctive clinging that comes with embodiment. It shows up as fear of endings, fear of change, fear of uncertainty, fear of losing identity, fear of losing control, fear of losing life. Instinctive. Once again, it shows up. Abhinivesh shows up as. So, first of all, it's not a trauma response, it is not any personal flaw, it is not a psychological fear, but it shows up as when there is fear of endings, fear of change, fear of uncertainty, fear of losing control, fear of losing life. Even the wise feel this fear, but they do not get entangled in it. They see it, they understand it, they soften around it. Today, we are going to explore how Abhinivesh, the fear of loss, shows up and how yoga softens it. So, I have an analogy to share, and it is the last grip. Imagine hanging from a branch. We have done it many times playing in the park when I was a little girl. And also, I've seen my kids doing it. So, hanging, playing around and hanging, holding the branch, hanging from the branch. But the ground is soft. So, even if the ground is soft, the body still grips. Even after knowing that the ground below is soft and it is okay to just jump, and yet the body still grips. Maharishi Patanjali says Abhinivesh is this grip, the instinctive fear, the instinctive hold that comes with being alive. Abhinivesh is the most human of all kleśa, all afflictions of the mind. It is the mind's attempt to protect what it cannot control. I'll just quickly give a shout out to Edit ZZZ910. Hello, hi, edits 910. How are you? How are you doing? And I'm so thankful that you joined. This is the fifth and the final mind afflictions that we are um, exploring today on day 60th. Can you believe it? Out of the 100 days journey um, in returning to the essence of yoga towards a celebration of International Day of Yoga, we are in the 60th day. So 40 more days to go. So Abhiniveśa, the fifth and the final kleśa, mind's affliction, is the most human of all kleśa. And it is one of the dominant kleśa, not the subtle one. It is the mind's attempt to protect what it cannot control. It's the mind's attempt to control what it cannot to protect what it cannot control. So yoga, the practice of yoga does not remove this instinct. It is an instinct. Yoga will not remove the instinct, but yoga can teach us to see it without being ruled by it. That's how yoga will soften Abhiniveśa. So, the gentle truth is that when I stop fighting fear, fear softens. And the more we fight the fear becomes stronger. So, when I stop fighting fear, the fear loosens, the fear softens. So, what are we practicing today? Notice one small fear. Then observe the instinct behind it. And then let the breath soften the grip. It's like hanging on, clinging on to the branch, even though in spite of knowing that the ground below is soft, and yet just hanging it tight. And we will let the breath soften the grip, soften the grip. Gentle repetition of Om and then Bhavna. And this today we contemplate on trust. So let us begin our stillness practice. And the first one is sit and settle your breath. So you would just sit with your back and spine straight. Roll your shoulder if you have to, so your chest opens up. Today, we are going to, in our first stillness practice, in sitting and settling our breath, we are going to practice with all the 4 steps together simultaneously, not taking a break in between. So the first 2 breaths you would observe your breath. The next 2 breaths you would breathe with awareness, and the next 2 breath you will equalize the breath, and the last 2 breaths you would double the exhalation or increase or lengthen the exhalation from the inhalation. So we are doing these 4 steps simultaneously. All right. So thereby we are actually taking 8 breath cycles, right? So the first 2 is we observe, the second 2 we breathe with awareness, the third 2 breath cycle would be equalizing the breath, and the last 2 would be lengthening the exhalation. So let's do it. Place one hand gently over your navel, gently over your navel, with a smile on your face. We are taking 8 breath cycles, and each 2 breath cycle we are following the steps. So the first one will be observing our breath, the next 2 will be awareness breath, breathing with awareness, the third 2 will be equalizing our breath, and the last 2 will be lengthening the exhalation from the inhalation. So 8 breath cycle. So let's begin. Observe your breath. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Now breathing with awareness. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Now equalizing breath with 2 count on inhalation. Breathe in, 2. Breathe out, 2. Breathe in, 2. Breathe out, 2. Now lengthen or double the count of exhalation from the inhalation. Breathe in, 2. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. And stay like that. And open your eyes. Now we move on to our second stillness practice, which is noticing one fear. Instinctive fear. So that fear could be a fear of change. Maybe there is a change happening in your workplace, in your family life, in your own life. So the fear of change, we would just notice, or a fear of loss. It could be, for example, this, I just love my glasses and I just love this color. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I just have this fear of losing. No, this is honest, because this is, I just love it, the color. So fear, yes, I do have that fear of what if it breaks, what if I lose it, what if this particular glass. So that fear, or any loss, fear of loss, fear of uncertainty or unknown, unfamiliarity, fear of identity. So we would just notice one fear. I will I will take example of fear of loss. So fear of loss, which is a very genuine fear of mine, that I may look how it matches my outfit. But honestly, this is, since this is my one of my most favorite color, and I always am very I'm try I try to protect this from not losing sight of it. So I will take that example as a fear of loss. And then next, once we have noticed one fear, now, yes, I would ask gently, is this fear is instinct or a memory? Is the fear instinct or memory? The instinctive fear is Abhiniveśa. Instinctive fear, instinctive fear is Abhiniveśa. So is this instinct or is it from memory? So if you ask yourself, whatever it is, now we would just let the breath soften the fear, so that without force, without resistance, we just breathe in So the thought that comes to our mind, in that thought, I have this fear of losing. It is just an example. And anytime that thought bothers me, I'll try to loosen the grip and I'll just come back to my navel. I don't want to fight the fear. No resistance, not pushing. Just coming back to my navel, the anchor. I want to soften the fear. And now I would practice the gentle repetition of Om. We inhale and that rises from the belly, O that moves through the chest, and the vibration that softens at our lips. Inhale. Om. Inhale. Om. Inhale. Om. And just stay like that. Now let's contemplate on trust. Just stay like that. You're breathing softly and I'm saying to myself, I loosen the grip. I loosen the clinging. I loosen the clinging. And now open your eyes. So we are contemplating on trust, knowing that the ground is soft and I'm still tightly holding, gripping, clinging to the branch. That instinctive fear can be softened as we contemplate on trust. So here is the day 60 challenge, and it is notice one moment today where fear tightens and soften the tightening. Day 60 teaches us that fear is not a flaw, it is an instinct. Everyone has it. And when the grip softens, the mind becomes free. So everyone has this instinct, even the wise. So when the grip softens, the mind becomes free. Thank you for practicing with me today. Your steadiness is real journey and it means a lot. We meet again tomorrow. Until then, stay warm, stay open with your smile, and most importantly, stay honest to your own story. Thank you.